Good afternoon and welcome to the Monday, March 2nd, 2009 informational meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council. We will now call this meeting to order. First up on the agenda is the City Council staff report, and we will have updates from Deborah A. Owen, City Clerk.
Thank you and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. A couple of things to bring before you. One, there's a memo that's attached to the informational agenda. If you'll notice the red notes over the weekend, there were some additional information I needed to provide to the council just as far as a historical perspective when you adopted your budget. If you look at the back side of that memo, it will talk about how the budget has come to the council. Of course, the CIP is delivered on June 30th, and that's by charter. And the operating books, those detail books and summary books, are delivered to the council when the mayor does the State of the Budget address. And then on the front side, I know there'll be some discussion today on that. This is just, I think, for discussion purposes today. And just to remind council that in the past, the CIP has been adopted in August, operating was adopted in September, and then the appropriation ordinance was adopted in October. Of course, there's no ordinance on that, so it's up for review, which is done every year at this time. And then in addition, the Board of Ethics met last week. There were some updates that were sent to you via memo. And just to let you know that they're meeting today, or this week, Thursday at 3:45 in the commission room for those of you who want to meet with them. And I think there is, I'm just inquiring, if you will, at this point, I think there will be an effort to defer that Board of Ethics ordinance tonight. Is that the wishes of the council?
Yes. Okay, questions of Deborah? Seeing none, we will go up to, is anybody here from the mayor's office? Mayor's office have anything? Deborah, did you want to step forward?
Deborah Gaikowski, Transit Planner with the City of Sioux Falls. I am here to introduce Dennis Jensen, the Area Vice President of First Transit, which is the management company for Sioux Falls Transit. He was here in September of last year and just passed on some information to the council. He is here again just to give you a little update on what's happened since then and what First Transit is doing with Sioux Falls Transit and to answer any of your questions.
Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you, Council. As I mentioned to Deborah, I've had cataract surgery since I was last here, so now I have to wear these things, so I'll try to do the best I can here. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll be very brief because I know you have a full agenda. If you recall, when I last addressed the Council, we were about to introduce some management changes and performance measures at the transit system, and one of those was a customer service and ADA performance audit. And we did complete that. We did survey 75% of the drivers in 9 performance areas, and we consolidated those results. I'm very happy to report that actually the system rated very good in most of the 9 areas that we evaluated, and particularly in the areas related to safety and driving skills. There is a major area of improvement that was needed, and that is in the ADA federal regulations, which require announcements of major street intersections. And in that area, the system was a little over 20% in compliance. But that doesn't differ too far from the national average, which is around the same level of compliance. So what we've done since then is we've implemented within the monthly safety meetings. We have a 1-hour safety meeting each month. We address about 1/2 of that time to customer skills, the dealing with how to deal with difficult passengers, unruly passengers, short fares, and so forth. And that's paid some dividends for us. And what I'd like to also point out very quickly is that 2008 saw about a 7.5% increase in the number of passengers carried. Now, we talk about percentages a lot, but in real numbers, that's about 72,900 actual increase in riders over last year. And 2007 was up 23,000. And 2006 was up 94,000. And the reason I point that out is because even at the time when we're showing those increased passenger numbers, our accidents continue to go down. And that's reflected in 2006, we had 20 chargeable accidents. In 2007, there were 16. And all of 2008, there were only 9 chargeable accidents. So that shows that there are really some good things happening at the transit system. Our other recent developments is I think the council is aware of the extension of the labor contract. We were able to negotiate a one-year extension, which actually takes effect tomorrow, for 1 year with no changes in the working conditions or in the terms of the employment benefits and fringes. We've seen a major reduction in our backlog of grievances at the system. Then also on March 13th, we'll convert to a local payroll system that's traditionally been processed through the National Management Company out of an ADA or ADP office, and we'll be using the First Premier Bank in Sioux Falls here to process our payroll. We've also had some initial discussions on alternative fuels. I know the city has some sustainability efforts, and we want to talk about a possibility of converting some of your buses over to biodiesel, which is kind of a standard now around the nation. We usually use about a 2% in wintertime, and in summertime we move to a 5%. And then CNG also remains as an alternative, but it's a little higher price on the initial startup. But that's basically just some of the things that we're dealing with the transit system. I just wanted to give you an update because I've been out here last fall, and I wanted to let you remember who I was.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Questions of Dennis. Mr. Brown.
Dennis, thanks for being here, and congratulations on the results. That's encouraging news. Couple of questions. First of all, do you have sort of a one sheet that you could send to us so we can see some of those results and be able to understand
I
them
would
better?
certainly do that, sir, yes.
And then also, is there any question about ease of use for new riders? Was there anything in your survey about that?
There actually was not, but in that regard, I think Deborah is going to be she's doing some marketing initiatives, and I actually have an individual coming into town about a week to meet with Deborah and her marketing committee to start focusing on some of those areas. And one of those would be probably looking at not only the youth, but also the college age crowd, also with certainly something like an all-you-can-ride pass and so forth.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Benningham.
Dennis, I do too appreciate your coming to Sioux Falls today. My question is in reference to the customer service issue. We've talked about that many times, and I'm wondering if this is an annual event or if this is a series of programs that you're going to put together for customer service skills of the drivers and some of your internal staff.
Yes, sir. Actually, it's an ongoing effort, and as I mentioned, we have the monthly safety meetings, and we've devoted now half of that. There's actually it's an actual course that we're adopting the modules from, and each meeting then covers a different module or different set of issues that we want to address at that time. But it is definitely an ongoing type of a program, and certainly for the new employees that we're bringing into the organization also, they receive a very intensive customer service training, but there will be refresher training throughout the year. That's correct.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Dennis, sorry, I forgot one other question. Do you have any way to measure the timeliness of the buses when they're hitting their marks?
Yes, sir, we do.
And what kind of results do you have there?
I believe the results on the customer service audit was somewhere around 93%. The actual ones that we're showing on I believe on the day-to-day measurement, and that gets into the AVL or automatic vehicle locator, is about 97%, which shows a little higher. And a little bit of that can be related to construction issues and so forth at the time.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions of Dennis? If not, Dennis, thank you, and thank you for taking on an erstwhile job here in Sioux Falls.
Thank you.
Mayor Munson, we're on number 3, which has your name on it. Do you have anything that you... Very good. Number 4 is Audit Committee.
No report.
No report from Audit Committee. Number 5 is Fiscal Committee.
No report.
No report from Fiscal. Number 6, Land Use Committee.
No report.
No report from Mr. Jamison. Number 7 is Public Services Committee.
No report at this time. We will be meeting next week.
Very good. Thank you, Kenny. Now, item number 8 is City Council open discussion. And I would like to start that off with last Thursday, while the mayor was out of town, I had the privilege of meeting with the representatives from a country named Suriname. And Suriname is a small country in Guyana. It's our sister country. I met with the U.S. ambassador. She was up here from that country, as well as the defense minister, a U.S. attaché, and the defense minister's attaché from Suriname. And we toured the health facility that the city and the county jointly operate. We toured 911, and we also got a look at the bus that Homeland Security has provided Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they were visibly impressed, and when I left them, they were going to Pier, so I'm not sure how they'll feel when they come back from there, but had a real good experience with them and a real good talk, and it was nice to have somebody from the international realm here visiting Sioux Falls. There's another item here that I'd like to talk about. Now, all of you have a response or some information from Don Kearney, our park director, as well as the bathroom and maintenance facility paper brought forth by some citizens from Mckenna Park area. There is a new bathroom facility being proposed right by the tennis court in Mckenna Park that has caused some concerns from some citizens. And normally, what we do with this informational is we bring forth staff members and people who are in city government to give us information, but I've taken some privilege here as a chair and brought some citizens forward because I felt like it was the right thing to do, and if I get in trouble later, well, so be it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on Mr. Tom Stridicki, as he is the one that originally called me and made me aware of these concerns. Tom, please step forward.
Thanks, Chairman and Council. And I want to thank, before I start, I want to thank everybody, especially the Parks Department, for the wonderful job that they've done at Mckenna Park in their Phase 1. I think everybody that was there this summer in the celebration and saw what has taken place, they did an absolutely great job of putting it all together. However, in Phase 2, which is part of the way starting here, we do have a minor concern. And I really want to apologize for this sort of being 11th hour because we don't want to hold up any progress that the city has made, especially the Parks Department, and the fact that they have very well organized and engineered and ready to place and bid and build this facility. However, as we got to visiting in the last probably 48 hours with some of the neighbors up and down the street, I live on the south side, on the 4th Avenue side, along with several people here, and I think there's some on the 2nd Avenue side and possibly some on the boulevard. And even though we've seen the print on the web page, I guess we didn't realize what the dimension of that building was, that facility. And what it is, right now where the tennis courts on the southeast corner is proposed to build a 24 by 48 building, which is going to be the new bathrooms for men's and women's bathrooms. And also we're going to take and have a maintenance facility, which was demolished in lieu of Phase 1 project where the garden is, and also a tennis storage area, which is going to be proposed new that they had to do off-site storage before. After we reviewed all that and we got to thinking, there's some things that we want to talk about, and if you have that page in front of you, I'm going to briefly read through it and discuss a few of them if you don't mind. We believe one centrally located multi-purpose building to include bathrooms, maintenance equipment, and tennis equipment should be better served for the area in the Mckenna Park. As you know, the many outstanding features of the park include, but not limited to, tennis, the band shell, horseshoes, basketball, picnicking, sunken gardens, playgrounds, baseball, football, soccer practice, as well as many people just enjoying the beauty of the park. Because of the interest in various groups that enjoy Mckenna Park, it is in the public's interest that all visitors share equal access to a clean, safe, modern bathroom facility. At the same time, it seems logical that maintenance equipment should be centrally located to accommodate the entire park. The central location storage for the Tennis Association would accommodate their needs as much as equipment used 3 times a year. As a matter of fact, we have been told that they would prefer not to have the noise and the congestion in such a building, and it's currently being proposed by the Parks Department that would bring to the courts during the tennis tournaments. A few of the significant benefits centrally located facility would provide, there's 5 of them. One of them is our facilities in the center of the park that would eliminate duplication while at the same time providing equal access to all users of the park. The central location already has the infrastructure of the sewer, water, and electricity. Net results in a cost saving that demonstrates responsibility for taxpayers. Safety was a big issue by the Tennis Association. Their concern is not having to walk the kids over to the existing bathroom where it is now and have it closer to the tennis facility. However, it has been stated by the Tennis Association they have a concern for the children, but we also share the same concern. And the concern is about all the safety for all the kids and all the patrons at Mckenna Park, no matter what activity they're participating in, whether it be a As anybody's been around the park, which we all had children in the younger days living around there, there's a lot of plays that go on 3 times a week over there. There are evening, Monday night concerts where everybody's at. So there's a lot of activity in that park all the way around. A safe, clean, modern bathroom should be equally available to all children and people in the park, and central locations for equal access. Third item, which is very important by a lot of our concerns, probably more than not, is the green space for the recreation. With the proposed side of the building, 24 by 48, we lose a great deal of natural landscape. Also, if I remember right, looking at the blueprints, I think there's about 1,492 square feet that's going to be either concrete or paved around that area. So we're taking about 2,500 square feet out of one of the smaller parks in the space, and once that green's gone, it's gone. We all know that. Mckenna Park is beautiful but not large, so we got to be careful how we're doing that when we start developing our buildings. The Parks Department, number 4, the Parks Department maintenance, they should be housed in a central location. This would facilitate maintenance on the entire park, avoiding traffic and congestion at the tennis court area. In the days when the young children are there, or any of the children, that's a pretty congested area. And you guys have gators and you have lawnmowers running around there, so you need to think about the safety on that issue also. Number 5, the Tennis Association would gain their much-needed storage but avoid the noise and congestion along with bringing that proposal along. In closing, excuse me, I just really want to apologize for being this late, but the more we thought about this, the more we looked at it, everything seemed to make sense. And if you know, right now we have bathrooms at the wading pool area, and what we're proposing is take a look at, instead of having 2 sets of bathrooms a few hundred feet away, why not upgrade those at this point in time, which I understand is not in the 5-year budget, but shortly after, to remove, replace, and if has anybody been in those bathrooms? Show of hands who's been in those bathrooms in the last year. Pretty embarrassing going in them, actually, guys. They're well kept clean, but they're just really, the facility needs to be upgraded. And in the warming house side, the warming house currently could be shared with the tennis courts in opposite seasons, as far as able to use the warming house in the winter, the tennis in the summer. Let alone where I live on the corner of 4th and Park, personally, it's going to obstruct the view to the tennis courts. And I don't know if anybody up and down the street was too excited. Nobody wants another new building in front of their house if you live across a park. But that's secondary to the big effort of what we're looking at here. And what we're looking for at this point in time is, we know that this is in the pipeline pretty hard, but we'd like to see a deferment at least for a week or 2. We know that probably ain't going to affect, that ain't going to make or break the deal. To give us an opportunity to get together as a group with Don, which represents the department very well, and maybe a council member or yourself, and maybe a couple committee members, and see if we could maybe think about this before we go too far.
Questions of Mr. Stridicki? Very good. Tom, to the best of your knowledge with the entourage that you've brought down here, is there somebody else that spoke, or are you the spokesperson for your group?
Anybody's welcome to, I guess.
Is there anybody else?
We're just trying to use some common sense here and just take a look and be logistic. And I think I can quote maybe the chairman in saying we have the reserve the right to be smarter today than we were yesterday.
I've heard that someplace.
Don't want that one to bite me in the rear. But
I guess what I'd like to do at this time then is have Don Carney, the Parks Director, come up. And Don, could you give us some information from the other side? Or from your side, I should say, not the other side. Our side, or whatever side it is on.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Just a little background. This project was started back in 2004 and 2005, where citizens of the neighborhood got together to try to come up with a plan for the future renovation of Mckenna Park, realizing that our 100-year anniversary was coming up, and we wanted to do some improvements out in the park to be able to not only upgrade it, but also celebrate a 100-year anniversary. Part of this all took place a little bit before I got here, but in catching up and going through the files, one of the things that was identified was the need for a new tennis restroom facility at Mckenna Park. And part of what I think justifies the need for that is the amount of tennis that happens at Mckenna Park. It is probably obviously the most well-used tennis facility in Sioux Falls, but maybe in the state. And we hold lots of tennis tournaments there. There's a lot of instructional tennis that goes on there. And then there's some general play, which obviously the neighbors know well about. I just pulled some numbers because we really think, ultimately, I think some of the suggestions I think on a common sense level do make some sense that Tom brought up, but to really understand the magnitude of the amount of use that those tennis courts get, we pulled the use from 2007 because 2008 numbers were a little skewed because of the fact that we were under construction out there. But we had 235 reservations for the tennis courts at Mckenna Park. We had 29,600 participants that were scheduled to use that facility through those reservations. We had over 1,141 hours reserved at Mckenna Park. And I think the general philosophy and the general feeling from the Tennis Association is that there's enough play there, not only with the tennis courts, but also with the expanded formal gardens, the basketball court that's in on that north end, as well as the shelter that was recently replaced, which we're receiving a lot of reservations for. And so while the concept of one standard all-inclusive type facility is I think a good idea from a cost savings perspective, we really think that ultimately, as the park continues to get more and more used as a result of the improvements that we've done, we really feel like ultimately we think we're going to need 2 restroom facilities. Personally, obviously from our department standpoint, certainly empathize with the concern of living across the street from the restroom. Obviously, we also have taken into consideration that what we've tried to do is face the opening to the restrooms to the west, so the folks that live on the east side of the park don't actually have to look at people going in and out of the restroom. We've also provided some screening. The trees that you see there that are in kind of a blue shade, we try to screen that so that those that live on that side of the park wouldn't have to see into the park. And then obviously the reason why we've aligned the restroom tennis facility in the location that it is because it's at the main entrance to the tennis courts themselves. So, like I said, ultimately we think we need a tennis court there. We think we've had some pretty good involvement from the neighborhood. Unfortunately, we understand that not everybody always knows what's going on. They may just miss the communications, may not be aware, may have missed an article in the paper, whatever it might be. But obviously, from our perspective, we think we've done our due diligence with regard to trying to keep people informed and involve as many people as possible. So understand the concern, but obviously we ultimately think we need 2 restrooms at that facility.
Questions? Councilor Costello.
Don, I think it sounded to me like one of the biggest concern was maybe the visual components of being so far east. Could that building just go on the other side of that walkway to the west?
Yeah, part of the challenge with the design, as you go west from the current facility, the grade goes up in elevation. In talking with our consultants, there's one thing that we can do. He said he felt like we can move it 25 feet further to the west, away from the homes, without getting in any major redesign or any major additional costs associated with moving that. When we met last Wednesday, we indicated that we felt we could move it that far without any concern about cost overruns. So, and the other thing we could do too, and we just thought of today, if there were, we had proposed 6-foot pine trees to be placed in that location. We think we can find some bigger trees that would provide some more instant screen, and so we're obviously willing to do that as well because we obviously understand the concern.
Councilor Jamieson.
I was just going to bring up the same idea about the visual effect of the restroom being across from the homes, but have you talked with the neighbors about the idea of moving it 25 feet? Does that solve the problem for the neighbors, or not? I'm getting a no.
Could we ask Tom? Yeah, could you come forward, please, Tom?
I think the concern is a portion of the concern is the visual. We're not trying to make a facade with that. We don't necessarily want to look at it every day either. But I think the real concern is do you know, Don, what the numbers are of the total use of the park as far as bandshell, weddings, playground?
Yeah, the other numbers that we have are the wading pool in '07, we had 21,000. The shelter in 2007 had 4,100, and the sunken gardens had 3,600, which is basically wedding reservations, and then the band shell had 21,000.
And I guess the next question will be, when you say that we're in need for 2 bathrooms, is that based on a statistical number of usage, or is that based on, we just assume there should probably be?
It's not really based on the statistical usage. For example, one of the other good comparison is that Mckenna Park is about 20 acres in size. So too is Memorial Park. Memorial Park is a heavily used facility for soccer and flag football. And one of the things we found is that while we have the warming house and the ice skating rink and the restroom there on the what I'll call the eastern third of the park, the demand for use at peak times during those flag football games and the activities that go on there really warrant another restroom, because unfortunately when we're dealing with a lot younger kids, when they're in and play or out of play, they'd like to be able to get to a restroom and get back into the game. And so that's one of the challenges of having a 5-minute jaunt. We often experience that down at Yankton Trail as well. You know, we try to supplement that with portable restrooms facilities, but it's really, to answer Tom's question, it's really not based on any statistical formula. It's more about the kind of complaints and concerns and issues that we've had from the user groups primarily.
Bob? Don, when are we looking at going to bids on this project?
6th.
As is now.
The plan is to have it start advertising this Friday, advertise the following Friday, and then bids would be due on March 19th.
This Friday?
Yes.
Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I was going to ask Don to respond to deferring this for a couple of weeks or so.
It could be deferred for a couple of weeks. The challenge, obviously, from our perspective, or the undesirable scenario we entered into is that, you know, the longer we wait, the better chance that we'll get bids that aren't as good as what we might get if we do it now. But we don't know that until we bid it, obviously. But you don't know what you could have gotten either. I will tell you that the bids we received that we bid a few weeks ago were tremendous, and we had 12 bidders on one project and 16 on another, and we usually get 4 or 5, and you know that's usually about where we're at on a normal basis. So in the contractors that I've talked to, they're very hungry.
And also, I guess, just one final question. Can you give us a rough figure what you're anticipating the cost might be?
For the restroom tennis
Yes,
facility?
right.
It's about $170,000.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Don, what are the possibilities with when we go out for bid? Is there a clause that allows us to pull out of it so we can continue these conversations, or is that not a prudent method?
You know, I think it's a significant enough change if we weren't to bid the restroom that we probably need to just hold back on everything instead of just pulling out the restroom portion at the end. It's too big of a change order, I think, to really mess with. And I think the different trades that are involved in the different aspects of building the project may create where you'd have a different general than you might have if you would have built it with the restroom in it. So my sense is that if you wanted to defer, I would suggest that we do the whole thing.
Because then, then you're going to have to go and open the whole thing up with all the neighbors again and go through the hearing processes and so.
Well,
to see what everybody wants to do again.
Yeah, you know, it kind of depends on where you put it. You know, you wonder whether you're going to have another set of neighbors that are going to be concerned about where it's located, and you know, maybe not. I just know that you know, we try to rely on our master plan process as much as possible, and if obviously we miss people, there's no question about it every time we do it, but everybody's always welcome to be at our meetings and participate, and so I can't say whether that would be a problem or not, but and then the park board's also approved the master plan, and so depending on how much you change the master plan, you know, it begs the question of whether you ought to go back to the park board or whether they're supportive of any revisions to the master plan.
Okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Jameson.
Don, I'm sorry, could you tell me just how far that building would be from the curb, parkside curb?
The setback on 4th Avenue is 25 feet, so it could set right on 25 feet. We've pushed it back to 75 feet, and then obviously if we move it another 25, we could get it to 100 feet off the curb line.
this map up here shows that it's at 75 feet right now?
That's correct. And the other challenge that was brought up during our meeting last Wednesday is that if you get too far off the curb line, the fire department wants paved access roads and those types of things for servicing that building in case of a fire. And so obviously we don't want that, and I don't think the neighborhood would want that either. So,
Ms. Jameson.
And if I could just bridge the gap here a little bit better, what you're wanting is that facility just further south? Or
I
where would
think
you-
the big picture is we'd like to have it in the center of the park.
Center of the park?
You know,
which-
and personally, where I live, that's to my disadvantage if you're doing aesthetically, because I live directly south there. So, but I'm okay with that because it makes sense for the park. And we're not giving up, our big thing is if we replace where it's at, we're not giving up 2,500 square feet of green, which you all know the story on that.
I would like to do a little something here. All of you that are down here specifically for this item today, would you please stand up? And how many of you out there that are here today would like a couple of more weeks for communications on this? Raise a hand, please. And I would take it the rest of you standing up don't have a problem with the way things are right now then. Is that correct? Mr. Costello.
Tom, that's kind of my old stomping ground, so I think I know the park pretty well. But where specifically would you like to see this facility built then?
Replace the existing
yeah.
the aquatics bathroom and put in a multi-use facility with, in the wintertime, it could be the warm house, summertime be the tennis court storage. It could be the maintenance facility. It could be the new bathrooms. You kill two birds with one stone here.
And I think I read in our director's response to that, and do you want to maybe inform the rest of the people on that as well?
In looking at the pool facility itself, when the master plan was initiated, there was also, in 2001, an enterprise plan was put together for all of our city pools in town. And as part of that, many of you may or may not know that the actual mechanical room for the pool itself is in that building. And so one of the challenges of doing something different with the building that's there now that serves as the restroom, the warming house, and the mechanical room for the pool is that obviously it impacts what we would ultimately do with the pool. You could just replumb, I suppose, but ultimately what it doesn't take into consideration is that we've had thoughts about doing some things different, somewhat like Pioneer Park, possibly expanding the wading pool portion of it. Obviously, it won't last forever, and it will need some maintenance and possibly renovation in the future. Obviously, we know we don't want to take that out because I think we talked about that at one time, but certainly that's one of the reasons why we didn't include it. We specifically thought that out prior to moving forward to the master plan because of the mechanical being inside the pool house itself. And but I also think the other aspect of it is that we like the idea of having the restrooms on the north end and a set of restrooms to serve the pool, because between the pool and the restroom, our pool and the tennis courts, they're both exceeding 21,000 people a year that use those. And so by splitting that up, I think we also provide a better level of service to the people that use the park.
Mr. Anderson.
This is for Don, and then a little further on. I'm sure you've been working with the Tennis Association. Is there anyone from the Tennis Association here that might want to speak up on this also?
Yeah, I believe Mary Thompson, the executive director of Sioux Falls Tennis, is here. I think other representatives from Sioux Falls Tennis as well.
Yeah, thank you for hearing us today. Two concerns that the Tennis Association has is the use of a building as an administrative area. All of our programs, whether lessons or leagues or tournaments, we need a facility to administer that program. It's also used for storage, which is obviously a necessity with tennis programming. The other part that concerns us, I guess, is the restroom situation. We had about 300 kids in just the lesson program at Mckenna this past summer. And if we have one instructor there and little Johnny has to go to the bathroom, right now we really have to suspend the class, usher them down there, usher them back. If you have a parent, there's some possibilities there, but we feel very liable in our association with these little kids. That's probably one of our bigger concerns. Also, when we have tournaments, et cetera, we can have about 300 junior kids at those courts for just a few days, but the bathroom facility is extremely important. And a lot of times to go that couple blocks down to the current restroom facility is difficult at best. So those are probably our two biggest concerns. Obviously, the maintenance part, we don't have feelings about those, but those two. And I don't know, I have not talked to any of this group, of course, but I don't know if the biggest concern is the restroom part or the tennis facility part. We're more apt to be able to address those two. I don't know, is it just the whole thing? I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? And I just wanted to say, I was at the Veterans Hospital today, looked down over the tennis courts that are set up for the little folks and Gerald's Center for Active Generations, and it looks great, and I appreciate that.
Good, thank you.
Anything else here? Councilor Jameson?
Just a question for Don, I guess. Don, how does this fit with all the other tennis courts that the city has in town? Are there restrooms attached to all of them?
The other comparable facility that has eight courts that we have in town is at Keene Park, and the luxury there is that Keene Park pool serves as that restroom facility for that complex, which will get more and more use over time too now that we've added the lights to that complex. So, but there are restrooms directly there.
Just great. And one other question: how confident are you that you could really do a good job of fencing that off or blocking the view of that building from the street?
What we go back to oftentimes is that John Jacobson with Confluence and his staff have, I think, done a really nice job. I think the neighbors have been very complimentary of what's been done so far. Obviously, we are aware of the concern, and obviously, if anybody can screen that, he would be the person to do it and do it in a good fashion. The other thing I'd share with you, and when we met with the neighborhood on Wednesday of last week, was that understand the concerns about potentially people hanging out there, rollerblading, or whatever it might be. We do have 4 dedicated police officers that patrol our parks. We meet with them every Monday morning throughout the summer, and if there are issues or concerns, they're very good about dealing with those, whether it be at a community center or a park or a special event. And so we made that commitment to the neighborhood that if there are concerns, they should let us know, and that we'd be glad to try to address those things as best we can. But know that, ultimately we'd sure like to see the restroom put in.
Councilor Benega.
Don, just a couple of questions. What's the time frame, or is there an established time frame for the second bathroom?
It is scheduled to start this spring in May.
Okay. Just some, obviously not being associated with all the details, but if the band shell is in full use and the tennis courts are in full use, is there a concern about being able to help everybody in that particular 2 activities?
Yeah, that's a good point. The band shell, the nice thing about the band shell, it's a special event typically that's being held, and then it's over. And so those are, whereas a tennis tournament's more of a all day or all weekend type activity, and so we're able to accommodate that at this point, I guess. But I should say we just haven't had complaints about that. But the other thing I'd share with you is that in '99 or 2000, we were trying to dig for the records of when that facility was renovated for ADA access. And typically what happens when you have that occur is that you end up losing facilities as a result of that, and that was the case. And that's kind of why it looks the way it does. It's a little odd because you see a area where there looked like there used to be a facility there, and there is no longer. And so since 2000, we've actually lost another two facilities, both in the men's and in the women's. And we pulled some showers out as well as part of that. So we're going the wrong way, I guess.
Well, and the other piece to that, or I guess there's a couple pieces, from the band shell to the proposed facility seems like a long distance. Is there an issue with mobility, trying to get some of the older population or even some of the handicapped people from the band shell to where the new tennis court facility is going to be?
Yeah, that's a good point, and we're addressing that as part of Phase 2 of the master plan. We're going to have some additional walkways that will tie the entire north-south route through Mckenna Park with accessible walkways, both in and around the band shell and back up to the restrooms where they're currently located.
And my last point, if I might, is for somebody who doesn't like to spend a lot of money on insurance premiums, I'm a little concerned about the maintenance shed and the restroom being in the same facility with lots of kids using a bathroom and running around like my grandkids do and my kids used to do. Having mowers, tractors, and all that in one location gives me a little bit of a concern.
Okay. Yeah, and I think as many remember the old garage that used to sit out in the middle of the park, and so we're actually, the way we look at it, somewhat, I'm joking somewhat, but obviously we're losing 2 facilities and adding 1 by losing also the existing tennis facility.
Well, there's always a difference between what the cost of a facility is and what the expense of the facility is in the long run. And I think we have to look at long term. Sure, we might be saving some taxpayers' dollars, if you will, immediately with the construction of one facility. I'm a little nervous about that whole maintenance issue because in my own business and prior experiences, one accident with a lawnmower is not a very attractive long-range premium issue.
That's a good point.
And we don't want to make the orthopedic surgeons in the back row happy for the rest of their life. Right, Jack?
Mayor Munson?
Don, what, if you go back and revisit this, what kind of time frame do you have to work on to get the bids out in a timely fashion? And the other question is, if, I know this took a long time to come to the agreement of what we have today, and if we don't find it, is there a possibility that we could delay this another year, or where are we at?
I would like to think that, I would like to hope that we wouldn't have to do that, but depends on whether we reach a stalemate possibly on whether we can get something figured out or not. Obviously our hope was that the plan that we had put together and it was approved back in '06 was a plan that we were working from. And so with the changes now, just primarily every week that we spend on revising the master plan is a week that we lose in the bidding time frame. But I think it really kind of comes down to cost and the timing of when those improvements are made, because we're also juggling schedules at the tennis courts as well to try to accommodate the construction. And so that's another piece of it that we're working around. Not that that's impossible, but it's another factor.
Any other questions, Don? Very good. Well, thank you, Don, for coming down tonight. Tom, your group, and everybody here that's involved with this issue, and we'll see what happens tonight. So thank you for coming here and sharing your concerns with us. Is there anything else for City Council open discussion here?
I guess I have a question, Bob. You said what happens tonight?
Well, aren't we voting on this tonight? We're not voting on it tonight?
No, we're not.
No.
I thought we were. Okay.
No,
Well,
this is on the agenda.
well then maybe Councilor Benega.
Well, I agree with Kermit. I hate to delay this, but I think it's important that just from an informational exchange that maybe for a couple of weeks we ought to suggest to the Parks Department that they held another neighborhood discussion and probably invite some, not only the neighborhood, but the tennis association and probably some parents of the swimming pool activities if possible, just to reconsider this. 2 weeks is not going to make a big difference
How about
if, in fact, we move ahead.
Okay, I tend to agree with that. Councilors that would be in favor of asking Don to defer this, please raise your hand. So, Don, we'd ask that you would do that for 2 weeks and meet with these folks and see if we could iron something out. Don is deferring the bidding. Okay. Well, will that conclude it satisfactory then, Mr. Staggers? Very good.
I think this is going to work out a lot better.
Very good, very good. Thank you, folks, again for showing up here. Next, is there anything else then on Open City? Councilor Brown.
I wanted to talk to the council about, in the last few weeks, I've had a number of questions from constituents regarding city pay raises, and I think it might be beneficial for us to hear from Bill O'Toole specifically what, I'd like to know more about what percentage of employees are getting more than the COLA, the 3% raise, and how much they're getting. I think it's important that as the community and the private sector struggles right now, I think we at least need more information about how city managers are appropriating pay raises in this time. So I would request if others have an interest in hearing from Bill O'Toole on that.
When would you like that, at next week's informational?
That'd be perfect, I think. Yeah.
Looks like we have, do we have time for that next week?
Well, most of them you're going to find are going to be union contracts that you're going to have to deal with, and that's where you really get into problems with it, with those, and so you're going to have a lot of unions.
Well, I think maybe if we do that, put that information out there, one more, chance at public exposure to the ideas that went with these pay raises, I think that would behoove all of us. So we'll ask our city clerk to go ahead and arrange that then. Okay, anything else for the open discussion? Okay, seeing nothing, and number 9 is our presentations, and waiting patiently is Jim Clark, the director of the Sculpture Walk, and Russ Sorensen, the urban planner. So, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Russ Sorensen with the City Planning Office, and with me this afternoon is Mr. Jim Clark, who's the South Dakota Principal Manager of Xcel Energy and the Sculpture Walk Director. We're here to provide you with some information about the 2009 Sculpture Walk program. As you know, it's an internationally recognized annual visual arts program in our community, and there were 50 sculptures and 15 alternates that have been selected for this year, and the countries of Canada and France are also represented. City staff representing the ADA Advisory Review Board, Public Works Engineering, and Risk Management Planning, along with the Visual Arts Commission, have all reviewed and favorably recommended this year's 2009 Sculpture Walk program to you. At this time, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Jim Clark, who will provide you with a brief summary of this year's program.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you, Russ. It's good to be here again, going into the 6th year. It's hard to believe. And it is going to be another international exhibit. We have sculptures coming from 19 states, coast to coast, all 4 directions, and as Russ mentioned, from France and Western Canada. 15 of our artists are new this year. Over the past 5 years, we have displayed 240 sculptures, and with 2009, that will go to 290. Currently, there are over 50 Sculpture Walk sculptures purchased or leased, displayed throughout the community, so it is blossoming beyond downtown. This year, we will have some new challenges with the Phillips Avenue construction between 10th and 12th Streets, and that is the heart of Sculpture Walk, and that construction is going to occur from mid-March to mid-June. And of course, we're also going to have to deal with the downturn in the economy that may have negative effects on our sales commission and possibly on our site sponsor participation in the coming years. We certainly hope not, but we're preparing for it. 2008 was actually one of our best years, and we are in good financial condition. The major changes this year, first, we're going to have 2 different placement days. May 9th is the big day, with artists delivering their sculptures, and we'll have to work around the construction zone with placement of 23 sculptures in different sites, north of 10th, south of 12th, on Main Avenue, and on 8th Street. And then in mid-June, after construction is done, we'll be moving back to some of our original sites on Phillips. The second challenge, the economy. In an effort to get through the recession, we've decided to reduce the award dollars from $25,000 to $15,000, saving $10,000. Even with that reduction, Sculpture Walk remains the highest paid program in the U.S. We've also reduced the number of sculptures in 2009 by 5. We're going from 55 to 50 because it will be easier to manage, and it's a good time to do that with the construction. We'll give you a quick review of the quality of the sculptures. We're not going to show you all 50 today, but we'll take a look at 6. And the first one is Natural Wonders. And this is from an artist from Wisconsin. And the first location will be in the southwest corner of 12th and Main. But actually, this one has already moved, Russ. So we're still working on siting our sculptures. This one will be placed north of the fountain, at least that's the plan today, north of the fountain, Fountain Square. And then the second one is for my mom. This is Julie Jones, sculptor from Colorado, and this will be near the south door of the pavilion. A peace sign done by Dennis Klein of Canada, and this will be on the northwest corner of 10th and Phillips. Panda, bear, and cub, huge sculpture. This I also had to move the site over the weekend. This won't fit on the sculpture that is in Fountain Square, so we're going to put it in front of First National Bank, much larger pedestal. And then Double Dancer, another new artist from Colorado, Dennis Sahoki. This will go in front of Wells Fargo Bank. And then Skywriting, done by Kyle Foken of Minnesota. He's won several awards over the past couple years. And this will be over on the corner of 8th and Reed at the 8th and Railroad Center. Over the past 5 years, the city has contributed $110,000 in purchasing the 5 People Choice sculptures and all of the 60 quartzite and concrete pedestals. With the 5 People's Choice purchases and 11 sculptures that have been purchased privately and donated to the city, the total sculpture value is $189,700 for a 172% return. Add the pedestals and concrete pads purchased, and the grand total is $283,700 for a return of 258%. This does not include the increase in sales tax revenue over 5 years, and that could be significant. We're pleased that we can contribute back to the city in a positive financial manner, and we thank you for contributing to the success of Sculpture World. Any questions?
Questions of Jim? No, just a comment here. I had visitors from 4 states in the United States last year, and all of them went downtown and saw this, and they came back and raved, and I cannot believe Sioux Falls has a thing like this going on in it. So good job. I'm in favor of this program. I hope it continues for a long time. Councilor Costello.
I also have a comment. Jim, you probably remember, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 summers ago, I was picking up my son at a Boy Scout sleepover at the pavilion early on a Saturday morning. And Jim was out there with, I think, somebody from Fegan Construction, and they were actually placing the sculptures out there. So I don't know how much time he puts into this, but I sure appreciate the work that you do. It is definitely an enhancement to our community.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you. I have a good team to work with. We do start at 5:30 in the morning so we can beat traffic.
Are you telling us that Jim owns blue jeans?
And a hard hat.
Right. Very good. Any questions? Very good. Jim, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The second presentation will be audit reports on the budget adjustments and transfers of appropriations and surplus auction by Rich Oakswell, the lead internal auditor. Rich?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. You should have 2 very short audit reports in front of you. First one we'll look at is the budget adjustments and transfers of appropriations. And that was part of our annual 2008 annual audit program, and it was our first internal audit of this area. And that first page or that background will give some of you new council members a little information about the difference between an appropriation and a budget, and maybe a refresher for the more experienced council members there. The objectives are on page 2 there, and it was very simple. The object of the audit was to determine if budget adjustments and transfers of appropriations were done accurately, timely, and in accordance with the charter and executive orders. And number 2, that elected officials are receiving timely and accurate notification of budget adjustments and transfers of appropriations. We had no audit findings on this. We had no recommendations. We found that the budget adjustments and the transfers were done accurately, timely, in accordance with policy and law, and that you folks, the elected officials, are receiving timely and accurate notification. And we did that by going through all the files and making sure that everything was in compliance, that the monthly reports that you receive are what's in the general ledger, and that things are being done in a timely manner. Does anybody have any questions about this audit this time?
No questions of Rich?
Okay, that's, now this next audit, this is a little more interesting. This was at surplus property auction. And for those of people in the audience that aren't aware, the city has an annual auction every fall, usually in September, sometimes in October. It's on a Saturday morning. At least they get started on Saturday morning, and it tends to move on into the afternoon. And that's where the city gets rid of all this stuff that it no longer needs, whether it's obsolete or broken, that it's unserviceable or no other department wants it. And we also let the county and some other local government units kind of piggyback on this auction to kind of give them an opportunity to get rid of some of their stuff. And I can assure you that when the city puts something up for auction, usually there's a good reason for it. It's broken. It's not working very well. If people are looking for a great bargain, I don't know if they're going to find too many. I was out there Saturday morning to watch the process, and a lot of the stuff is going for like a quarter for a lot of broken parts, or maybe $1. The auctioneer does his best to get everything sold, and sometimes he has to combine lots of stuff just to get a bid of $1. However, we did take in about $188,000 in net proceeds from the 2008 sale, and a lot of that's some of the big equipment, the cars and trucks and that sort of thing. I want to draw your attention to the bottom of page 1 there, the noteworthy actions. For certain specialized heavy equipment like, say, street sweepers, we're using the online auction services, specifically Iron Planet. We've had very good success with that. The advantage of using the online auction is you're getting basically a worldwide audience that's interested in a piece of equipment. For example, on May 1st, we had an auction. We received a number of very qualified bids, and we sold it to a buyer from Canada. And we received about $36,000 for 2 street sweepers. And I just happened to ask our former fleet manager, who is now our auditor in our office, what those street sweepers normally go for new, and he said probably anywhere from $125,000 to $150,000 brand new. They're very expensive, and we got about $16,000 for some old machines. So we commend the purchasing and finance department for using the online auction services to get whatever money that we can for that equipment. As I said, most of the stuff that we sell has done its duty for the city, and it needs to be disposed of. Our first objective was to determine if the internal controls over the management and disposition of the property were functioning properly, and we found that they were. They were adequately designed, and they were functioning properly to give reasonable assurance. And number 2, the objective was to see that we're in compliance with the executive order about surplus property disposition, and that we're also in accordance with the South Dakota Codified Law, and we found that we were. And we had a few minor things that we discussed with finance at our closing conference, but nothing that was internal control deficiency, and they like to do a kind of a debrief after every year's sale to see what went well, what could be improved for next year. We commend them for that, and we just found that it was well done. And if you have any questions at this point, I'd be happy to attempt to answer those.
Councilor Steggers.
Yes, Rich, on some of this heavy equipment, may I assume that the buyer has to come and physically remove it, and we don't have any costs incurred?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Like the street sweepers?
Yeah, they have to come and get it. And one of the advantages of using Iron Planet is mainly for the buyers, is that when we put a piece of equipment up for an online auction, they actually send an employee from Iron Planet to Sioux Falls to inspect the machine, and they do a thorough examination so that the buyers know exactly what they're getting. And I think there's some sort of warranty that Iron Planet gives to the buyers that this piece of equipment is in the condition that we say it is, so that they know exactly what they're getting.
And how much do we pay to have it placed on Iron Planet?
I'm not sure what the commission is, but I can email that to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, for the regular sale, it's a very small commission. In fact, I'm almost under the impression that the auctioneer is almost doing us a service. It's a very reasonable commission. I'm guessing around 5%. But we don't get a lot of people that want this business. And at some point, it could be that we don't get any auctioneers that really want to do this business. And that's very possible, so.
Councilor Costello.
Rich, just for clarification, on the example that you gave of the two street sweepers, the $36,000 were the net proceeds to the city.
That was net proceeds, yes. Yes. Yeah. But I will email that information to you. I'll have to look that up. So.
Other questions of Rich? Seeing none. Thank you, Rich,
okay,
for your good work, and we hope the good news, the good job that the administration did winds up in the Argus. Next thing up will be the budget calendar by Gene Rowenhorst, Director of Finance. And Gerald, were you going to?
I'm going to do that short discussion, yeah, if you don't mind. And
Not at all.
Gene would fill in.
Gene's got the grade book over there, doesn't he?
I guess. In the past, we've started this conversation about this time of year in the finance department in reference to how we would like to at least consider a timeline for the budget. This is a very, very rough draft, and it follows some of the concerns that we had in the conversation about some of the what we felt were pitfalls in prior years. And you have a history of the budget process from prior years on your desk, and I think you all understand those. One of the things that we'd like to reiterate, I guess, is the fact that the concern that I think some of us have had on an annual basis is when we do the two budgets separately, we always have talk and conversation about how it affects either the operation budget or the CIP budget. So we felt in an informal conversation that we need to have these two budgets put together in one time frame, so we know not only what a CIP project cost us from a capital budget issue, but also what the operating impact is, because there is some significance in those CIP budget dollars that we need to consider for operational issues. Last year, we spent 10.5 hours reviewing both budgets. We have a proposal in front of us that's only about 9 hours, but all of those budget hearings actually are completed about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And the reason we talked about doing it a little earlier is because if you remember last year, we had people sitting here for 3 or 4 hours in the evening, and then they ended up not getting heard because we weren't ready to jump into another big budget issue. So they had to come back on another evening or another time frame. That included a few of the taxpayers, but more importantly, a lot of the staff had to wade through that kind of thing. This is, as I suggested at the very beginning, a very rough draft. We would like you to look at this, consider it as kind of a time frame that we would like to look at. If you have input, we'll talk about this again, or we certainly have the opportunity to go back to the finance department and ask for some more information or considerations of some of our concerns. I guess the thing is that we need to set something up not too distantly in the future, because we certainly don't want department heads scrambling in the budget process to make sure that they are meeting our time frame. Some of the stuff is already set by charter. We know that the mayor budget address is on July 23rd, and it needs to be done by August 1st. There's a couple other key periods of time that we need to meet. But again, a rough draft in front of you. I hope you have the opportunity to look through this. Give us some feedback, and we'll bring it to a formal time frame in the near future. Anybody have any questions for myself or for Gene? Kermit.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure all the council members are going to be getting a budget book line by line. Is that true?
I think it's whatever you decide you'd like to have. Some people like the book, others of us like just the diskette. So I think you can get whatever you want.
Okay.
I think that's happened in the past, hasn't it? So you can get whatever you want.
Okay, sounds good.
Other questions of Gerald? Seeing none. Well, thank you, Gerald, for that, I guess. Anything else to add?
I would hope that maybe you'll have an opportunity to look at this over the next week so that we can get this to the Finance Committee in the next 7 days, if possible, and get them started on the process, because as we know, it's a labor-intensive task, and there's no reason for us to delay that conversation.
Councilor Costello.
Maybe we should just schedule it for the next informational meeting as a topic for discussion.
That would be great. That's a good idea.
Mr. Rowenhorst, did you have anything to add? Got the afternoon off, huh? Well, very good. Is there anything else concerning this topic? Okay, then the next one, item 10, was the executive session. We're going to postpone that for one more week. B&D is gone. I know it seems like I'm a broken record there, but the other thing, is there anything else for the good of the order? Mr. Rowenhorst.
I just wanted to touch base with you on the sales tax. You've got that. We came in at a 1.9% decrease through the month, year-to-date through the month of February. That's well within the ranges of our contingency plans that we have. You recall the 4.5% that we've held back in the budgets, and we're well within the ranges of that, so we're still fine. The second thing is the first up through March really hasn't had a history of being real indicative of what the last half of the year will be. Let's put it that way. So we're looking good. We'll keep watching it, and see what goes on going forward, and we'll certainly keep you involved in our contingency plans and what we're going to do there.
Councilor Brown.
Gene, forgive me if I missed this, but did we ever talk about December numbers from the Christmas sales? Or is that check not here yet? Or?
We're actually, we need about one more month or maybe 2 months. The changeover from the 0.92 to the 1%, we can see it, so we can tell when it's kicking in. It looks like it's kicking in about halfway through the month of February. But we'll be able to give you more details on that. That's because it's interesting how we can track it now. We'll be able to track it for a while anyhow. With that, the difference between the 0.92 and the full 1%, we can figure out when the money's coming in.
But maybe I'm misunderstanding you. I was wondering more how we did through the holiday season on sales tax.
I'd have to go back and do a little different tinkering around, because if you recall, we take the first check in January and roll that back to December. So, but we can figure that out for you.
Okay.
We can get that and get you an email on it.
Councilor Costello.
But Gene, we ended the year at 1.6, didn't we?
Yes.
For sales tax growth.
Okay. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Gene, the negative 1.9%, is that 1.9% less than we projected, or is it 1.9% compared to last year?
That's 1.9% compared to last year.
To last year, okay.
Yep.
How's that compared to our projected?
Well, we have 3% in for, we had 6% in for 08, so you're under quite a ways there against the 6%.
Mr. Brown, did you have something else? No. Okay, very good. Any other questions of Gene? No, very good. Seeing none, thank you for that report, Gene. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Councilor Costello.
We all got this letter. I don't know. It's addressed to you, Bob, regarding Bruce Bedmig, and I think he was before the council earlier in the year. Mayor, did you get a copy of this by any chance?
Who was it?
Bruce Bedmig, regarding
the Dairy Queen here.
69th Street.
I'll give the mayor a copy.
I wondered.
Bruce sent me a letter, and he asked that I read it, and then I made copies of it and gave it to all of you. So I don't know where we want to go with this, or, I thought it was just some information that you'd want if somebody wants to.
Well, I suppose as long as the mayor's got it, and I assume that Mark Cotter might want to make a response.
I'll give it to him.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, well, then we stand adjourned. I'll see everybody at 7 o'clock. The fiscal committee meeting has been adjourned. Is that correct? Been canceled. Thank you.